Welcome back, everyone, to the Shop Stool Podcast. This is episode 12 of season 6. It's just the three of us again today, but we do have a few things to talk about. How are you guys going?
Yeah, pretty good. First recording of springtime. It's always nice.
The weather has definitely changed, so we're on the move to warmer climes.
Happy days.
And you guys are all smiling about it while I'm dreading it. I've had to get so I've been running my AC in the workshop a few days, the last couple of weeks, and I'm busy building an office internally.
Yep.
So within that airspace, and I'm having to work on ventilation. So it's a bit of a tricky one because I want to bring the workshop conditioned air into the office, but I also want to keep the dust out. So I'm trying to keep noise out as well. So it's a real tricky problem on a budget. And I thought I had it all dialed in because I got these really quiet computer fans. So they are made to be silent, but the problem is they've got almost no static pressure. So they're not good at pushing air. And I've been doing all of this work in the middle of winter, thinking there's success happening. And this last week, when it got a bit warmer, I was sitting in this office going, "Yeah, I don't know if this is working anymore." Because the instant that heat kicks up, it struggles. So
interesting.
I think middle of summer, I'll revisit this and see if the stuff I've done has actually worked.
Tropics problems, eh?
Yeah. But we thought we'd start with the topic that I teased in the last episode.
Yes.
This is to do with a project that I've just finished, and this episode that you're listening to now will be out on Sunday. So that's a few days from now for us. But when you're listening to it, it'll be Sunday, and I'm going to be publishing a YouTube video pretty much about this topic on the Wednesday. Okay. So if you're listening to this on Sunday, keep your eyes out. There'll be a video coming out talking about a similar thing. I was approached by a client who wanted me to build a piece of furniture for them, and the majority of that build was going to come from Bunnings. Now, we've talked in the past about our relationship with Bunnings.
That's a very, very diplomatic way of saying it, Robin.
Very nice.
Our relationship,
It's a tenuous relationship.
We're like divorced, but we're amicable for the kids, and
but it's an interesting place that we're in, and this is what I wanted to discuss with you guys and get your opinions on it. Because Bunnings is retail focused, our clients can see all of the materials that we could be using for a build in Bunnings. So this particular client of mine has walked past these big laminated panels and said, "I want a desk made out of that." So she's in come, and I should probably just pause here and say everything I'm talking about here is nothing against the client. She's, what her choices in this are 100%. This is our opinions. But she's now asked me to build a desk out of these panels, and I felt a bit dirty building this because I didn't want to, and I tried to convince her to go for, we'll build the panels ourselves. We'll make it out of any timber you want. I'll build those panels, and then we can do the build. But she wanted to stick with that because there's no way that I'm going to be able to compete with the price of those panels. It's impossible. So let's start with the first question. I'll throw to you first, Bryan. Would you use, obviously I would imagine you sometimes use Bunnings. I think we all do. Would you, in that scenario, would you have just said to the client, "Thanks, but no thanks"?
So many factors play into it. I mean, if her decision was based on aesthetics, I would want to give her a bit of a teaching in aesthetics and say, well, if you want that laminated look, we can do it in a different way, out of a different timber, made locally. But if it's all cost driven, then you're kind of bound by her budget. So either you say, "I don't want the job," or you say, "I do want the job, and I'm not going to, like, I know because you rely on YouTube as well for revenue, whereas I don't. Like, I don't have to post everything that I work on Instagram. Like, I've said it time and time again, there's loads of jobs that I do that I would never post about. So if I had a client that was asking me to make a wraparound desk like that off like a Bunnings budget, and I had the availability to do it in my schedule, I would probably just do it and nobody would ever see it. It would never get posted. It would never have my branding on it. Like, there'd be nothing on it. So long as it was an Australian timber, because that has always been my one sticking point.
Yeah, right.
So if it was made out of Tassie oak or something like that, then yeah, I would do it, but you would never see it. It is a tricky one, like, because times are tough, and it depends where you're going in the market. Like, if you're trying to go entry level to mid level clients, they're feeling it at the minute. Like, I mean, that's kind of where we all fit in financially, and we're all being squeezed at the minute by the cost of living. So I can understand the decisions from a client's perspective to do it. But yeah, it depends where your target market is for your clients. Like, traditionally mine would have been mid to the lower end of high end. And I've seen a lot of the mid-level clients disappear. Yeah. So I'm now relying on a lot more of the high-end clients and doing less work, but they're bigger jobs, and I'm charging more for them.
Yep.
Because they've still got oodles of cash.
Yep. Yeah, I'm the same.
So yeah, I don't know whether I've drifted away from it, but yeah, I don't think there's anything, like, there's nothing wrong with doing it, and it's a simple desk. Like, take the money, Robin. Like, we need money. We're a business, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good, for a start, it's a really good learning experience job. You've learnt a bunch about doing something like that. You got to practice, essentially you got to practice a desk on a real life client, and they had no real expectations. And so you can't ask for much more than that.
What do you mean by expectations?
Well, the client saw this product and saw that it was all finger jointed joints all over the thing, and they liked it. And so that's about as low as an expectation on a piece of wood that you can have, like just random joins all over it. And so for them to choose it and you to be able to work with it, you really can't stuff the job up. I mean, also, so I've got a lot of questions about this, because I pretty much agree with Bryan about everything. Like, you would probably just do the job and take the money and run, put your effort into it, but it is what it is. But my question, so like, we all kind of think of that most woodworkers will think of that pre-laminated panel as a bit shite, but it's a low budget option for like a bench top or something. But we all, well, certainly me, use that kind of product all the time. Essentially, it's plywood. And if you were to put a laminate on top of it, no one would ask second question about using something like that. And I was wondering about the price of it. What kind of size and what kind of price is one of those panels? It'd be interesting to do some like live numbers and just compare it to, like, if you had the option to say, why don't we use like a nice laminate plywood instead of this? And then you get a desktop that's not going to just fade away and get all shut.
So this is a solid timber panel. So one of the requirements that the client had was...
Is it beech or what is it?
It's beech,
Beech, right.
European beech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a nice timber. It's also solid timber, and the client specifically said to me that she doesn't want a laminate top.
Yep.
Which I get. I don't like laminate. I'd rather use these panels than laminate, because... And when I talk about laminate, again, I'm talking about laminate that you would get from somewhere like Bunnings. Rather use a solid piece of timber. It can be repaired. It's got a better feel. Go for that. So the European beech from Bunnings is probably the second highest in cost. I think after that you get a Tassie oak or a mountain ash panel that they make, which is the most expensive. But this beech panel, 2.2 meters by 600, and it's 159 Aussie dollars.
Okay, so it's pretty bloody cheap.
It's super cheap. I've used these before. The beach one in particular, and I've spoken to other people about this who've had this issue, has an issue with cupping. It seems like all the beach panels cup.
Yeah,
but I've used the part.
The beach moves around a lot, so that's probably why they do it as a glue lamp panel anyway.
The oak and the pine boards that I've used in the past, dead flat, amazing to work with. Solid timber. I mean, it's basically a solid timber panel. You, as a woodworker, it's my bread and butter in terms of joinery, and I've used them around the house, and they're perfect. Yeah. It's really hard, unless you're looking at it ethically. It's really hard to argue with using these panels.
I would buy some pre-laminated panels from timber yards as well. Like, especially if, say, they've got a ding in them or a bit of knot or something like that I know can be on the underside of a project or hidden away. Sometimes it even works. It sounds ridiculous, but if you can get like a clearance panel from a timber yard, sometimes it works out cheaper to buy it like that and then rip it back down into boards. So there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with buying laminate panels. Like, definitely not.
Andy from Urban Salvage sells them occasionally.
I
see them pop up.
Oh, he's got stacks of them, like stacks and stacks, like all the way up to massive dining tables. So sometimes you have to think of, if you're under the pump and you don't have the time to actually laminate a panel up as well, sometimes it might be worth paying a premium of, I mean, it might cost you $100 more or something to buy a pre-laminated than to buy the boards. You're taking out all that time of jointing, dressing, laminating the timber. So like it makes business sense sometimes to use manufactured products like that. And like, I don't know about you, but I don't get a massive, like, do you enjoy making big laminate panels, Joey?
No.
Like, do you have do you have a huge clamping setup, like with the vertical?
No, I would like one of those, but no, I don't.
So if you had something like that, then brilliant. Like, making panels is not really that big of an issue.
The difference is, when you talk about laminated panels, I guess this is the sticker for everybody. You're talking about continuous length pieces being glued together, or are you talking also about the little blocks with the end joins on them?
Like, I've never done that.
Yeah.
But again, I can see the reason for it, because you're taking bits that would otherwise be waste. So it's probably environmentally, it's making much more sense. But for me, again, that depends on your client base and what their expectations are. And you're saying her expectations are, this is what the panel looks like. There are butt joints in it, and there's lots of small pieces, and that's fine. And I reckon do you know what? I think if you're doing small enough laminations, I think you can get away with it, because it's just going to look like, staggered, kind of like floorboards. But I think the wider the boards in the lamination get, then any butt joints in it can look pretty crappy.
Yeah.
That's so funny you say that, because this client actually came over to my house and I showed her some of the areas where I've used it, and her response was, I don't like the thin boards, I want the wider boards.
Oh,
so
really?
it's amazing. It's
funny.
You can't tell. But it's with those finger joint, those butt joint ends. What I explained to her is one of the reasons why I don't think she should do it is because that says, without a doubt, to anyone who looks at it, this is mass produced.
Yeah.
I actually had someone reach out on Instagram after I posted a picture about it to say, oh, I didn't realize people were using this in your space, because that straight away says that they've gone low budget. And again, nothing against the client, but it does say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up, before you said something about, I forget what you said. So I wanted to clarify, I can't get anything like that here in New Zealand. We can get pre-laminated boards, but they're like some awful, they call it acacia, but it's just some terrible,
we get those
awful
too.
Crap. And over here, they're typically pre-stained. You can get some natural ones, but often they're pre-stained. And the stain is like barely a hint of something that's a micron thick. You wouldn't want to. And so if you were to use that for a desk, you're just within a month you're probably going to rub the stain off the front corner, and, not much longer where where your heavy use areas, it's just going to destroy that stain or whatever finish is on it. Is that similar to what you used, or was it completely bare natural and you had to finish it?
Yeah, I don't know if they pre-finish.
I think they're
the one that
natural.
I use. I don't think so. Yeah, but it's certainly not stained. It's certainly not stained color. It's natural color. Yeah, so I had to finish it myself.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's at least one thing, because you at least can control the finish, because the stuff they over here, the Bunnings pre-stained stuff, is just like nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a whole stack of, there's oak, there's pine, there's this. They come out with a lot of questionable species as well. And this is something that I go into in the video from a stewardship perspective.
Right.
You feel a little dirty buying this stuff. Okume, which
it's starting to sound a little bit tropical.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's all coming out of these rainforests, and we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's hard to know where exactly, but Okume, for example, over here is pretty big in plywood construction, and I assume they have massive offcuts of the stuff from turning the logs into veneers, and they probably take all the scraps of that and turn it into panels. Imagine is what's happening.
And it's not to say that I can't say categorically whether it is or isn't properly sourced. But when you've got it at such a low price and there's a history, you've got to assume that there's some amount of blood being spilled to get at this price.
Quickly moving on before our lawyers get involved, Robin. How's the end grain desk looking?
Yeah, good. So last night I finished up I've glued everything down, just to fill everyone in. What I'm trying with this is it's using the idea of parquetry. So end grain parquetry is fairly common. I don't know how often you'd see it, but you do get flooring that is end grain parquetry. So take that approach and make a desk out of it. So I've taken a piece of plywood, I'm making it, and then I've got these blocks that I've cut to about 15 mil thick, and I'm essentially gluing it down onto this plywood. It's about 1.4 meters across, 900 deep. I haven't seen many people do this, and I think that probably the reason for that is it goes against everything in woodworking, which says timber needs to move, and I'm saying that timber is not allowed to move. So there is a possibility that this will fail, but it's a personal project, so I thought.
How tall are your pieces?
They're about 15. After
15,
sanding, I reckon I'll get them down to about 10 or 12, which is, from the research I've done, that's about the size that you would go for with parquetry.
And did you epoxied it or just PVA?
So I've just gone PVA because I couldn't find anything specific about the glues that they use. So you get parquetry glue, right?
Yeah.
But I couldn't find any defining technical factor in it that makes it better than anything else. Better than epoxy or better than PVA. So again, this might work. If it doesn't and the pieces start popping off, then that's a lesson learned. But I can't see why PVA would be inferior to epoxy.
Yeah, probably.
It's just about the brittleness of like epoxy. Like PVA tends to have a bit of flex in it. Like it never really cures hard. So if you're using PVA, maybe it does allow for a tiny bit of movement in there. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see the result.
Yeah. I would be. Well, my first thought would be after you sand it and it was smooth, I would contemplate pouring some thin epoxy over the whole lot and filling all the end grain straws up, and that would really stop or mitigate a lot of any movement that it wanted to expand and contract, because it just can't soak any moisture up, and so it can't expand. And that's really the death of those sorts of things is as they expand, you get big cracks across the brickwork, essentially, right? And so if that would be where I would think about, really filling all that grain up with an epoxy and then put whatever finish you want.
Even like a gloss epoxy finish, like pour it, so it's like glass
now,
over the top.
one of the things that I'm trying to do with this is I recently did a small silky oak end grain board. And with this new sander that I got from Bosch, I can't remember if we talked about this in an episode where I've upgraded from a little Makita palm sander. Someone said to me, get yourself a big boy sander. And I did. And holy shit, the difference between a little palm sander and like a Rotex or something, it's wild. It's unbelievable, the difference. So I got this Bosch sander and I was amazed at how smooth I could get this end grain in such a short amount of time. So what I'm trying to do with this table is not go the epoxy route, but rather buff that end grain up to the point where a little bit of oil and you've got just this glass top. So I'm really trying to avoid using that epoxy because that's the obvious choice. All the gaps between the blocks as well; those have to be filled.
Yeah.
What are you going to fill them with?
At this stage, probably I'll just do a PVA sawdust mix and put that in. The problem there is then it's going to taint all of the end grain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to do the whole lot, I think.
So I haven't quite figured out what to do there, but I think that's probably what it's going to be.
Cool. Look forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
So
well,
it'll be done in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
I've done a little bit of that. I can't. The whole time you've been talking, I've been trying to think about which project it was that I just did a small amount of end grain. I think I made some triangles or Louis cube type things out of some thin end grain slices because I saw Nick Padula do it yonks ago. He made this whole some cabinet doors or something out of that kind of thing, and I copied him just playing around in the workshop. But I can't remember what I did. But yeah, it's fun to play around with that kind of thing.
Maybe that's where I got it from. Thanks, Nick. So how's the shed going, Brian?
It's getting there. It hasn't broken ground yet, but the doors arrived 2 days ago. The kit is arriving on Monday, so the day after this airs, and then the concrete is starting on Wednesday. So
when you say the doors arrive, is that not part of the kit, or have you gone?
It comes from a different manufacturer.
Oh, okay.
So,
right. Then I thought they may have been some custom super insulated doors or something.
No, just pretty bog standard roller doors. But so by the next show, I should have a slab.
You're so lucky. I saw the picture, your little Instagram post.
Yeah.
And you've just got this dead flat like rugby pitch, and it's like you couldn't ask for an easier work site. I mean, it's so unfair.
It's one of those things like it's why it took us so long to find a property, because I was looking for something flat as well. Like so many of the properties that we looked at east of Melbourne, big sloping sites, and I'm like, it's just going to make it like cost wise, it's going to be impossible for me to be able to build on it. So pancake flat. It's great.
Awesome.
I think the entire, over the 8 acres, there's about, I think it's 15 or 20 centimeters of fall from corner to corner.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, mine corner to corner is 15 to 20 meters. So
yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't really turn into a marsh either. Like, we don't have a huge amount of rain in Ballarat. Like, we get colder, but there's a bit less rain than Melbourne, I think, or somewhere about the same. So it doesn't really turn into a marsh, which is nice. But it's going to be full steam ahead, really.
So the slab that starts, and then how long does that? Have they given you an estimate time?
It'll probably be 3 to 4 days, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it'll be a week-ish to do the cure, and then they can start putting the structure up.
And they're going to start straight away with the structure.
Probably, but there's a delay on the insulation, and you can't put the cladding on the shed until the insulation's arrived.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can still build the frame, though.
So they can build the frame, The builder's coming from
What kind of insulation is that?
Is it Sissel?
Sisolation.
No, it's not. It's Insul Shed or something. It's like a specific... It's like a bubble.
Does it go on the outside of the frame and then you screw through it? Or?
Outside of the frame, inside of the cladding.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How thick is it?
Not very thick, I don't think. Yeah.
Okay.
But
You don't have that on yours, do you, Joe? You didn't do the walls, if I remember. Yeah.
No, I didn't do the walls.
you did the roof.
Yeah. We did the roof after the fact, yeah.
You did the roof afterwards, yeah. Yeah, I think this is
I got 60 mil polystyrene.
Yeah. I think that, like, here, this is the most common way to do it, rather than retrofitting with bats or anything like that.
Makes sense. If it works, then do it that way, yeah.
I think the total cost to insulate the entire shed was about $3,000.
Yeah.
That's not too bad then, considering. Yeah. Does it have an R value attached to it?
It does, yeah. Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but it's sort of similar. It's like on the lower end of bats, but it's working out at like less than half the price.
You'd think it would have to be at least the minimum. Over here, I think the minimum is 1.2 for any insulation
I have a feeling it's 2.
Product.
I have a feeling it's 2.5, but...
It's so funny to listen to us talking about R value 2.5, and you listen to the Americans and I'm putting in 250 in my house.
There must be a difference in the scale. I always felt like, because they're always talking about R25 or R30, I feel like it's just a decimal point change, because there's no way you can be putting in, I mean, maybe if it really is getting that cold, but it seems outrageous to be putting in R30 and we're putting in like R3 in the ceilings. And it's like...
Yeah, I mean, it isn't. Like, you think it's somewhere in the like northeast of the States where you're getting down to minus 20, minus 30 Celsius sometimes.
Possibly. Possibly it's right.
I don't know, once in 5 years it's getting that cold, so... Who knows?
And they've got permafrost, for God's sake. I mean, their ground is frozen solid. Like, that's not something we have to deal with at all.
Yeah. So, weather dependent. Should have a shed by the end of October.
Nice.
Like,
so exciting.
All the electricity in.
It's nice and quick.
Yeah.
And then you can move the clover table in.
That's going to be the fun bit. So if anybody's seen my Instagram, I've got another enclover table to make out of my little 4-car garage, which is doable. Like, assembly is going to be a bit of gymnastics to get around it, but the delivery date on that is the end of November, so it may, depending on timing, it may work to assemble it in the new shed. But we shall see.
So this is your third one?
This is the third one, yeah. So the first one was the leatherwood and Taz oak one that I did for the exhibition at Heidi for John Wardle. The second one was for his home, the new home in Anglesey, which is, what was it, Tassie oak legs and a white mahogany top. And then this one is going to be blackwood frame with a Tassie oak top.
I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but after we're now about to embark on your third, is there any like real changes or process changes you've decided that might be more efficient or make your life easier?
Loads of changes. Like, the difference between making the first one and the second one, not only having the jigs and things made, like I've got a lot of jigs for the shaper that do the rebate cuts and things like that. So again, I'm pretty sure I've shown it on Instagram, but they're literally made up of laminated MDF, and you drop components in. It's got the shaper tape all in it, and all the instructions are written in it for me, so I don't even have to think about it. I just do it. So that makes it way quicker. Even just knowing the stock sizes, like the best stock size of black bot and where to get it from, which timber yards and things like that. The least amount of sawdust that I remember the first time that I made one from the leatherwood, and it was all rough sawn leatherwood. I remember the amount of sawdust. Oh my dear God!
But that leatherwood was also pretty gnarly and messed up, wasn't it? Which probably
some of it was spalted, some had a bit of rot in it, some wasn't leatherwood, it was blackwood and myrtle and stuff. So there was a lot of sorting through when it comes in a batch like that. Whereas now it's just going to the timber yard and literally knowing, like, these are the lengths that I need, this is the diameters that I need, or the dimensions that I need. So with the blackwood, do you ever use blackwood, Joey? Do you have it in New Zealand?
I've used it once.
You used it once?
Yep.
So it's a bit of a hit and miss timber. Like, it's quite soft. So the client originally wanted to use it for the tabletop, and I moved them away from it. because being a darker timber and being quite soft, the scratches are super obvious in it. Also, when you glue it, if you use Type On 2 or 3, you can get a chemical reaction along the seam and it turns it green.
Ah, cool. Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when a metal clamp is touching timber and it's sort of oxidizing the metal in the glue and you get that black. Yeah, it's like a green, which you can sand out, but it's a ton of work. So there's just things like that make Blackwood. It's great for some projects. It's not so good for others. With the legs and the frame of this, it's perfect because it machines really nicely.
Yeah.
And this is the first one that I've made in wintertime or spring, early spring.
Yeah.
The other ones have both been midsummer. So trying to get the stock, especially with the leatherwood, the movements in it, trying to get it to stay perfectly square, like not like half a millimeter of deflection, so that when like butter, put it in the jig to mill it and then rotate to cut the clovers, that they all stay where they should, was the trickiest bit. So I remember with the leatherwood, it probably took me 2 weeks, and I had milled it down to like literally the final dimension that it could be. It couldn't be any smaller, otherwise the whole clovers would have to shrink, and it was a ton of work. So yeah, I dressed these, let them sit overnight, dressed them down to 1 millimeter oversize, and they stayed perfectly flat. So it's been super quick. They've been laminated. They're laminated now, so I'll be milling them to their final size for those quadrants today. And then, off to like butter next week.
Sweet.
Milling. But yeah, it's a lot less stressful than the first few times I made it. Like, yeah.
Nice.
When you moved all of your tools, did you spend a lot of time setting them back up? I'm just listening to you say you've milled them perfectly flat.
Yeah.
Was there quite a bit of, or did everything stay square?
Everything stayed square. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fortunate.
Oh, sorry. You mean my machinery?
Yeah. So like your jointer.
No, it went to shit.
Just as you said that, perfectly square, and then I just joined the dots with the move. I just went, I don't know. I think we're living here for the rest of my life because I don't want to have to ever reset my jointer.
Not at all. It went all over the place. The two tables weren't coplanar. I had to get into the guts of the machine and start working with Allen keys and trying to,
fuck that.
put something like point one of a mil up, and it was fucked.
I think anyone who's religious, that's my version of hell.
It is. But okay, so the last time that I had to reset it in my old workshop was to do this clover table in, I don't know, what was it, November, October last year. And the heat changes day to night. Kept moving the tables. It was driving me mental.
Wow.
I probably spent 3 hours, I reckon, trying to get the tables coplanar. Came in the next day and they'd moved.
Fuck.
I got these ones coplanar the other day in about 15 minutes, and they've stayed flat. So
Okay.
So that $3,000 of insulation is totally worth its weight in gold.
Well, this is it will be, but it's just the benefits of working somewhere where it's a bit colder, and it sort of stays steadily cold. Like cold to colder doesn't seem to shock the timber, whereas it's always cold to warm.
Yeah, and you don't have a tin roof heating up and baking the space. Yeah.
So full steam ahead and picking up a little bit more work as well. Like I've got some jobs in for next year that I'm quoting on. So
nice.
it's good. It's good to feel busy, and then I need to start planning what I'm going to do with these classes, when I'm going to start them, how often I'm going to run them, whether they're going to be a day or 2 days. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Cool.
I'm excited.
I have a quick question for you guys. Talking about new work, I may have a potential lead on some new work. There's an interior designer up here in Townsville who's originally from Sydney. He does a lot of high-end work around the country. And he proposed something the other day. Based on how cheap the timber slabs are here compared to down in Sydney, would it be cheaper to build the table here and ship it down to his clients in Sydney than to get a Sydney-based woodworker to make it, what would the cost of shipping a 1.8 by 600 table cost across Australia? I mean, are we talking thousands of dollars or are we talking hundreds of dollars?
Can the legs be taken off it?
Let's say yes, because I assume if I say no, it's definitely into the thousands.
If the legs could be taken off it, I would say you could be looking, and it depends on the value of the table for your insurance as well. You could be looking at about $600 to $1,200, somewhere in there would be my absolute ballpark guess. I think once you start going legs assembled on it, you're talking a couple of grand, I would think.
Yeah, okay.
That's a long way, and it's not really on a main route. It's not like Melbourne-Sydney or Sydney-Brisbane. But yeah, definitely having the legs removable allows them to stand it up against the side of the truck, so you're not being charged the cubic volume of it, really.
Yeah.
Whereas if you got the legs on it, it's the entire volume of the table, and they're not going to be able to put things on top of it.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions there, because how careful are the truckies going to be? Would you build a plywood box around it, whatever? Yeah. And how much would it cost you to drive it there?
Yeah, you see, for me to go down to Sydney is a long way. It's not like Bryan going Melbourne to Adelaide. It's, that's 3 days to get there.
Right.
So you'd have 6 days away from your wife and kids.
I know. Suddenly that shipping cost seems too expensive. No, I love my wife and kids.
Yes, that's a massive. I mean, that's 6 days away. I wouldn't do that for a delivery.
6 days
no.
Too much. But we're sort of brainstorming the idea just to see if it's worth it. And that's why I was more asking a ballpark. If you'd said to me that's going to probably be 10 grand, it's never going to be worth it. But between or less than $1,000, it might be.
I would say if you could do two at once as well that are the same and pack them against each other.
Good point. Yeah.
Because like a lot of the shipping cost that they build into it is the collection and the drop off.
Yeah.
Like coming out to you individually. So if they can do two at once, you may find that there's a bit of a discount there.
My initial reaction to that was just get the maker you want to make the thing.
But interior designers don't always think like that. They're thinking, bottom dollar.
Do you think there's really that big a cost difference? Well, let's forget about the timber, because there quite possibly is a fairly large timber price difference. I wouldn't have thought it would be massive, but do you think there's a huge price difference between your services compared to someone else's services? Like, is it really even worth considering apart from the shipping cost? Wouldn't it be pretty similar, or do you think it would be really different?
I think there's also, this is mates helping out mates to get work. So there's a bit of that involved as well. But yeah, he knows where I am in my journey. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be a lot cheaper than some guys. Yeah. Is it more worth it? We don't know. That's what we're nutting out. But there could be something.
I guess if it's long term, where it could be that you make 3 or 4 of these a year and there's like a constant kind of order for it, it's probably worthwhile definitely investigating it. If it was just a one-time thing, I wouldn't stress out about trying to beat some price. Just work out what it is, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if there's a potential that you're going to sell 3 or 4 of them a year, then it might be worth your while really just trying to work out the most cost-effective way to get them from A to B.
And there might be you might have clients in Brisbane,
that's
you might have clients
a bit more cost-effective.
Airlie Beach, and then I can drive it down. We don't know. So but he was saying he wants to be. He just saw it as an opportunity in the market. He can then create a product. He's got a guy who builds it for him. He's got a product, and then for all of his clients, because he does around Australia, he can offer them George Nakashima inspired tables. What he's looking at. Yeah.
And Joey, please tell me you have a good client story, because we asked and our listeners delivered in the form of Jem. AI genius has has done us an official theme tune for Joey's Client Corner.
It is so good. So what I thought we could literally just chuck it into the clip now.
Yeah.
And then so anytime Joey has a story, we can preface it with the song.
100%. Here it is.
Joey's in his workshop, carving every day. Clients bring their troubles, making his hair turn gray. He builds with love and passion, but they don't understand. They push him to his limit, shrinking his lifespan. Wood chips flying everywhere, complainers fill the air. Joey's patience running thin, but still he'll carve with flair. Sawdust coats his overalls, he's working 9 days. Board is stacking up so high, it's see his sunlit ray.
How good is the jingle?
Yeah,
That's
thank you,
just
Jim.
genius, isn't it?
We all had a good laugh.
I love it.
And he's done it with AI, right?
Yeah.
has to be.
All AI.
Yeah.
So
It's amazing.
it's
I will now
terrifying.
ask Jim to AI the music video version of that. That would be great.
Just going to give me a video for an angry man in a workshop.
Right,
So
take it away, Joey.
Here's a bit of a story. The other week I mentioned my client giving me a bit of a runaround with a placeholder deposit, which he didn't pay, and then like 3 days out from me wanting to start that job, he pays it, and he wants the same time frame. So anyway, I've made that piece, and it's sitting in my finishing room. You may have seen it on my Instagram. It was like a low and long TV unit with all the doors have got mitered edges. So he didn't want to see door frames, and okay, it's nice. It was meant to be black when I took the job on, jet black with the stain, so you can see the grain through the stain.
Certainly wasn't black in the picture.
No, because it was now, and then it went to brown. And so typically I don't like to stain things. I can do black because black is black.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say, I want it to look like this and present Exhibit A, which is some picture which I got from the client, and it's the most shadowy room possible. And it's like there is every shade of brown and black and grey in the picture. And can I have it like this? And you go, okay, which side of the picture are we looking at here? Like,
Which end of the table?
what color do you want it to be? And I took from the picture that it was grey. So I gave him a set of samples of a bunch of different grey washes. And so he comes back and says, no, that is too grey. There's no brown in it at all. And so I was like, okay, I've already sent you some brown samples. Sample like 3, 5, and 6 are brown. Are they the kind of browns you want? And so no response. And then, so this is the worst thing with stain colors, is that there's no universal color system. We all know that one stain on one piece of wood is different color to something else. And so I ended up saying, look, this is the link to my supplier's stain collection. There was about 14 stains, and they all looked very, very similar. And they're about between $40 and $80 a litre, depending on the color. How many of them do you want to buy? So can we go back to another sample of one of the samples I'd already given him? So now he's got another sample, and it's just going to carry on like this, I think. And it just...
Oh, so that's not it finished.
This is one of those... Sorry?
I thought the story was going to end up with, but I convinced him to leave it natural.
Well, God knows that's where I'm pushing, but...
Oh, it looks awesome.
It looks beautiful like that. I definitely think it should stay natural inside. And if you're going to do a stain color or something, the outside can be black, say, and you open it up and you've got this nice bright, natural warm color on the inside. I think a black interior on that would look not great, but...
Is it all solid, Joey? Or is it ply?
No, it's mostly MDF veneer.
Yeah.
And then solid lipping, solid draw thing, bob. I hate doing those sorts of. I would much rather have made a framed door and cut my 45s out of a solid piece, because you've got something solid there. And what I ended up doing is machining down some oak to 19 mil, which is the thickness of the veneer panels, and then I put my saw over to 45 degrees and cut 3 mil strips off a board. And so then, if you could imagine the profile of that, it's because it was 19 mil thick. When I cut the strips off it on the 45, they're the right length, and the angles are on the right profile to just glue straight onto the 45 degree cut on the panel.
Yeah.
And it's a nightmare to do it. And I use super glue and a whole bunch of masking tape and hold your breath for 30 seconds. It works, but it's not fun. But yeah, I think it should stay. And so anyway, and the problem with this is that I took the job on thinking it was going to be black. And yeah, I can do a black stained piece of furniture, but anytime anyone said, I want something like this, and some random picture, it's just like, where do you even start? That's not something I would offer. And if he had said that from the start, I think I would have said, no, I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I totally refuse to stain anything. It's like you either have it natural or you have it black.
Yeah. That's it. And
something that
to be honest,
something that I suggest, I can't remember who it was. I posted the photo of sending those samples for the clover table to Sydney.
Yes.
And somebody asked me, was it for multiple clients? Because I had 2 pieces of each timber, so 2 bits of Vic Ash and 2 bits of Blackwood. Right. That's what I do. That's my blanket rule now with clients. If they ask for samples, I'm going to give them 2 different samples of the same timber, so they understand that it's not a perfect veneer, and there will be variances in the timber as well. And you can say, can you please get me more of this and less of this? But they have to still be aware that sometimes I don't know until there's finish put on it that you are going to get like a jump in tone and things. So my tip to people, send 2 samples to clients instead of 1. Yeah,
that's the worst I think the worst is I just came across, I did a kitchen ages ago, and the clients picked their bench top off, just a little like 100 mil square piece of stone, but the actual piece of stone, it was like a greenish lime green, not lime green, but like a leaf green type of stone. And then, so they picked it, and then the top came, and it's got this giant white vein down the middle of the stone. And they said, that's not what we wanted, and which is fair enough. If you're going to give someone a sample that's got no detail in it, you have to expect that that's indicative of the whole panel.
Although if they do natural stone, though, surely there would be text everywhere to say that there's going to be big variations.
Yes, I don't know what they were told and they weren't told, but they definitely, as far as I know, they only ever were shown the sample piece, and which does beg the question, like either they were just trying to get rid of this awful piece of stone with a big white streak down the middle.
Gotcha.
Or, because typically with natural stone, you get a picture of the whole sheet leaning up against the wall, and like this is where do you want to take
is your sheet.
So I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I do know that I saw the sample and it was not indicative of what they got. So there is definitely, case in point, I'm just starting on this giant kitchen island, and it's going to be black stained. It's meant to be oak, but I'm going to use ash because they just want the black stained look. Ash takes the black better, I think. But I've got 50 meters of ash I'm just dressing, and there's some pieces which are like as brown as oak on one side, and the other side of the board is jet white like you would expect. And it's just how the trees grow. And if I were to take those same boards and laminate them up as a tabletop, there would be some outcries of, that looks terrible. So from that point of view as well, as the maker, it's one thing to put your order in for 5 sticks of wood and have it come on the ship, and then when you put it through the machine, or even in the shop, you can't tell through the rough sawn timber what you're actually buying. And so there's a lot of gamble, because we give a fixed price, but how much of that price is involved in, like, how much extra should we have to buy a consistent amount of color in the timber? So that's a really hard thing to quantify.
Yeah, because in each load of timber they are putting in some crap pieces that they want rid of.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of like I've sort of always been fortunate, never to have enough space to store much timber. So I've always bought per job, and even the additional labor cost and fuel cost of driving to the yard for every job, I still find that it gives me a better product at the end and reduces my costs, because I don't end up with like crap bits of timber that I can't use for anything.
Yeah, I agree. I do the same thing.
To bring it back to the beginning of the episode, it's there a lot of it to do then, Bryan, is what you said about educating your clients. That's what timber is. And if you can get them to, like we would appreciate that, you can get them to appreciate that variance, then this isn't an issue.
Yeah.
So many of the clients, and obviously I haven't had as many as you guys, but so many of the clients that I've had come through the door, they fall in love with the piece, whatever the timber, whatever it is, because it's unique to them. And listening to you guys talk about, like what you're saying, Joey, with the different versions of brown, man, I am terrified of getting a client like that, because up till now everyone's just been, it's wood, it's beautiful, it's exactly what I wanted, that's it. Man, having to get it right on that level, kudos to you.
Well, yeah, it's not fun at all. And you can imagine with a stain,
just run a mile.
No matter what stain it is, they might have chosen what the stain is that they want, but when you apply it, you might overlap a little bit, and then if you can see it, can the client see it? And are they going to accept that it's slightly darker on this door's? And it's like, that's why I just, hands up, I don't want to deal with it. But I'm in, the goalposts have changed halfway through, and it's like, I've got to kind of complete this journey, but it's not going to be fun. So,
yeah.
Bumper episode. Right. That was good, guys.
Let us know how it goes.
I will surely let you know.
So we can
I look forward to playing the jingle again in a couple of weeks' time.
Jingle.
Yeah, thanks again, Jim, for that. That was gold.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it there. Good episode. I agree. Bumper episode. Let's check back in a couple of weeks and catch up again.
All right. See you, everyone.
Okay. See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye.